Hello, hello, and hi, and welcome to another edition of Things We Said Today. This is a bi-weekly show where we talk about anything and every little thing we feel like on the Beatles. What's going on in the news today, what happened in the past, anything that comes to mind. The door is wide open when it comes to potential topics of what we might cover in each show. I'm Ken Michaels. Hopefully, you are aware of my syndicated Beatles radio show called Every Little Thing, as well as my other talk show podcast called Talk More Talk, which is all on the solo Beatles, and my own YouTube channel, which is exclusively on Beatles. Beatle content loaded on that channel called Ken Michaels Radio. I'm being joined by my regulars. We have Darren DeVivo here, who has been a veteran of New York radio now for well over 40 years, and it's always great to join him. He's also on Talk More Talk. Wherever I go, he goes. He's part
Hello.
of the package.
I follow
Hi,
Ken
Darren.
where he goes. Ken's at a restaurant, turns around, there's Darren.
That's right. There you go.
Hi, everyone.
Sometimes I don't know if he's stalking me. Anyway, we also have Allan Kozinn with us. Allan, you know, as being the co-author of the recent books on Paul McCartney's solo career, The McCartney Legacy, Volumes 1 and 2, with Adrian Sinclair. He also writes for Beatle Fan, many years with the New York Times in their classical department. He also wrote the book The Beatles from the Cavern to the Rooftop many years ago, and Got That Something, How the Beatles I Want to Hold Your Hand Changed Everything. Hello, Allan.
Hello, Ken. Hello, Darren. And hello.
Hello, Allan. Hello,
On
Bull.
today's show, we're going to be welcoming a special guest who's been responsible for putting together some amazing shows for 45 years on John Lennon. We're going to bring him along in just a few moments. But before we do, we have lots of news to get to from the last couple of weeks. First of all, Ringo Starr will be holding a press conference tomorrow to cover a lot from his current activities, including his upcoming leg of his All-Star Band tour, which actually starts this Wednesday, September 10th, at the Chicago Theater through September 27th at the Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas. Ringo, in fact, will be doing 6 concerts at the Venetian. Members of his All-Star Band will be on hand for the press conference as well. Also, Ringo is currently running his first art show since 2019 at the Venetian, which actually started September 5th and runs through October 15th. This will be at their An Amazing Art Gallery and will be the first to feature his original paintings for sale at exhibit, with all the artist proceeds going to benefit his charity, the Lotus Foundation. Ringo will also answer any questions regarding his most recent album, Look Up, produced by T-Bone Burnett. So we'll be covering the topics brought up and the answers given by Ringo and possibly the All-Stars from this press conference tomorrow. We'll be gathering information from it from the conference tomorrow.
Is there any truth to the rumors that the Venetian is where Venetian blinds were invented? Sorry.
That's the question I submitted for Ringo. We'll see if he answers that one. Meanwhile, the biggest news of the past 2 weeks is that Amazon MGM Studios has acquired Paul McCartney's documentary, Man on the Run, described as an intimate feature exploring Paul McCartney's creative rebirth after the Beatle breakup. Academy Award winner Morgan Neville, known for his film 20 Feet from Stardom, directs this documentary, which just premiered this weekend at the Telluride Film Festival and is the centerpiece of what Amazon MGM calls a comprehensive new partnership among Paul McCartney, Universal Music Group, and Amazon that will unfold over the next year. In addition to the documentary, the partnership will include the release of exclusive music and merchandise from Amazon Music and commentary from McCartney himself. Man on the Run will be released in select theaters and subsequently on Prime Video on February 25th. Happy birthday, George. In more than 240 countries and territories worldwide. This also coincides with Paul's own book coming out, Wings, the Story of a Band on the Run, which will be available on Amazon and Audible on November the 4th, and Paul's Got Back tour dates in North America this fall. That's from September 29th through November 25th. It is now known that Paul's new album will be coming out next year, and he also plans on touring the UK. So lots of activity there on the horizon from Paul McCartney. Interesting that he made this deal and all these other offerings coming here that they're talking about. Exclusive music and merchandise from Amazon Music and commentary from Paul. Now, apparently, one documentary concerning Paul McCartney is not enough, as there will be one concerning Paul recovering his long-lost bass guitar as one of the new films being offered as part of the BBC's Arena series. The new films will celebrate 50 years of Arena, which began life as a magazine show in 1975, before later moving to standalone films, with other upcoming documentaries on the secret sketchbooks of painter J.M.W. Turner and lost audio tapes of artist L.S. Lowry. The Beetle and the Bass, that's what this is called, will follow the fan-led the Lost Bass Project campaign to recover the Hofner 501 bass guitar, which went missing in 1972 and was used on early Beatles songs such as Twist and Shout and She Loves You. The film features new interviews from Sir Paul, his brother Michael, friend and artist Klaus Vormann, and collaborators such as Elvis Costello, as well as those involved in the Lost Bass Project, which found the instrument in the attic of a terraced house on the south coast of England. And Sir Paul played the bass guitar for the first time in more than 50 years in December last year during his concert at London's The O2, which also saw him bring out Ringo Starr and Roddy Wood on stage with him. So two documentaries there on Paul. A whole documentary just on the lost bass guitar.
Most bass.
Paul was spotted having dinner with film legend Robert De Niro at the Italian restaurant Il Buco al Mar in Amagansett, Long Island. That was on August the 25th. And Paul has been going to concerts lately. Speaking of Amagansett, who was seen with his wife, Nancy Cheval, on August the 28th among a crowd of 200 at the Stephen Talkhouse, which happens to be in Amagansett, seeing an intimate show from Metallica. Also in the audience was jazz guitarist Al Di Meola, who not too long ago put out a whole album of Beatles music. The show was done to celebrate the band's new channel, Metallica's new channel for Sirius XM. And then 2 nights ago, he caught Oasis's show at the Rose Bowl in LA. Paul was spotted standing and taking a video of Noel Gallagher on stage. It was a surprising show of support from Paul, who many years back on Howard Stern's show expressed disappointment in the band when they said that they were much better than the Beatles. Paul said he called them slightly derivative. And incidentally, Oasis have been performing a few lines from Octopus's Garden as part of a medley with their song Whatever. Paul was asked what he thought of the show. He only said one word: fabulous. Paul just jumping about from concert to concert there. This Friday, September 12th, is the big day for the theatrical release of Spinal Tap 2. The End Continues, which boasts cameo appearances with Paul McCartney and Elton John. And the soundtrack album listed says that Paul appears on the Taps, Cups, and Cakes. So he's going to be doing, I guess, his own cover of Cups and Cakes.
Cups and cakes.
It sounds like a McCartney song in a way. And Raspberries fans will have a double CD tribute album to the band coming out called Play On, featuring the first new recording in a long time from the Hudson Brothers, plus Rick Springfield, Vicky and Debbie Peterson, Lou Gramm, John Waite, the Lemon Twigs, Robin Zander, Marshall Crenshaw, and writer for Beatle fan, see, I always tie in Beatle fan here, Ken Sharp. who actually wrote a book on the Raspberries many years back, Overnight Sensation. The tribute was pushed back. Let me explain this. It was set for September 12th. That's the official release date for it. Apparently, the copies have sold out already. So they now have on Amazon October 10th the release for when they will be sending out the next batch of CDs. That's the same day as the Power to the People box set. All right. So again, the Raspberries tribute is called Play On, double CD right there. A reminder that Jeff Slate will be doing a John Lennon tribute show, the John Lennon Birthday Bash, October 5th at the Cafe Wa, famous club in New York City. That's at 6:30 p.m. And news about Billy J. Kramer, who's doing a show with The Circle. Two Beatle connections there. And the band, the 60s band called 60s Thunder, that's at the Regent Theater in Arlington, Massachusetts. And also, we learn the very sad news in the rock world as we note the passing of Mark Volman,
Hmm.
co-founder of the Turtles with Howard Kaylan. The band was known for such mega hits as, of course, Happy Together, She'd Rather Be With Me, It Ain't Me, Babe, Eleanor, and You Showed Me. After the group broke up, Mark and Howard formed Flo and Eddie, and they also worked with Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. While Mark and Howard were huge Beatle fans, one Beatle connection is that they appeared with Frank Zappa and Ringo in the film 200 Motels. Mark and Howard also worked as DJs on New York's K-Rock for a while, and they both headlined the Happy Together tours. So very sad to hear about that.
Yeah.
Aren't they
Mhm.
also in the band when John and Yoko played with Zappa at the Fillmore?
I think they were.
I think so too.
Believe they were. Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know what I mean. It had to be vocals, right? In the Mothers, or at least guest members.
okay. I think you're right though, Alan,
Yeah.
about that. And if not, you can edit this out.
Okay.
And then finally, Darren was giving me the news right before we started the show about Will Lee, the great bass player who is now leaving one of the greatest Beatles tribute bands, the Fab Four. And you have more info about that, Darren?
Yeah.
You're always surprised. You know I'm going to call on you.
I don't have it in front of me, but if memory serves correct, sounds like a very amicable parting. Will Lee is going to just wants to do some of his own stuff. There hasn't been any time in his schedule to kind of concentrate on writing, songwriting, possibly I think recording, maybe an album. Or he said it's been a while since he had the time to do his own thing. So it was
Right.
an amicable parting, and an artist that I interviewed at WFUV eons ago, Jim Boja, is coming in as the new bass player in the Fab Four, and I'm sure all that information is on their website. I spotted a post on Facebook, I believe, and it might have been Will Lee's post. The upcoming shows will be the last ones, I think, with Will playing bass. But everything is cool there, and Jim Boja is on board, and everything's hunky dory. And maybe we'll get some Will Lee music at some point soon. At some point
Okay.
soon.
I know he's been pushing a lot of his own music the last few years. So, yeah, what a tremendous talent, Will Lee, who's played with so many people.
Yeah, it's easier to say who he hasn't played with.
Yeah, that's a much shorter list. And he was also on Ringo's Rotogravure.
See, I forgot that. Okay.
All right, that's all the news we have for you right now. And Alan's going to put that thing that swirls around, and we'll get to our special guest.
All right. Let me hold on so I don't get seasick.
Here we go.
And as promised, we have a very special guest with us for the show this time out. It's Joe Raiola. And that's a name that I think many of you are familiar with. You might be aware that every year when I give my news towards the end of the year, I mention a special John Lennon tribute concert that takes place in New York. And Joe has been doing this every year since John's passing. So we're coming up on, believe it or not, 45 years since he was taken away from us. And Joe is joining us to talk all about that and we welcome Joe to the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Joe.
Great to see you, Darren.
Yeah, Joe and I go back many years. Um, Probably when the show was in, what would you say? Probably in the 90s, some point in the early first half of the 90s at least. So it's sort of become a New York City. To me, it's always kind of represented a New York City pre-holiday thing, a way of celebrating Lennon early in December. This year, which we'll talk about this year's show. But Joe, you're at Symphony Space again this year? Oh no, Town Hall.
We're at Town Hall.
Always, I mean, whether it was Symphony Space or Town Hall, two of my favorite venues. And always a nice setting to what is a very special event. And this year looks like it's going to be one of the best.
Okay.
You know, it's always difficult to compare one year to another. There have been so many highlights over such a long period of time, but it's a great lineup this year for sure.
Every year when I check, there's a great lineup. So I've wanted to go to your shows. I haven't done so yet, but I'm going to make it my business to go. But before we talk about that, let's get a little background on you as a Beatle fan, how it all started.
Well, Hard Day's Night and Help, Ed Sullivan Show, of
Uh-huh.
course. That was my first entry. And then I saw Hard Day's Night and Help on a double bill. And at the New Dorp Lane Theater on Staten Island. That changed my life because it was actually the Beatles that introduced me to Mad Magazine. Because in A Hard Day's Night, there's that very quick scene of I think it's Son of Mad is the paperback being read. I could be wrong about that. I should know, but remember, there's the Beatles assistant manager, a manager in the train reading a paperback edition of Mad. I didn't know what that was, but I figured that was a kind of a tacit endorsement by the Beatles. And then I ended up finding Mad, and of course, I spent my professional life as an editor at Mad. I was an editor at Mad for over 30 years. It was the Beatles who actually first put Mad on my radar.
Do you remember the first song you heard from the Beatles? Was it "I Want to Hold Your Hand"? Like most.
Whatever they did on Sullivan that night was the first. Was it they open with "I Want to Hold Your Hand"?
No, they opened with "All My Lovin'."
"All My Lovin'." There you go. So that was it.
So you didn't hear them on the radio before that?
I may have, but I don't remember
Uh-huh.
that. I remember I was at was visiting my aunt and my cousin who was younger than me. They were talking about the Beatles going to be on Ed Sullivan, and I'd never heard of them. And my cousin was deeply insulted that they were insulting the Beatles. And I remember he said, "How dare you say that about my Beatles?" Like he was taking some ownership of them. And I thought, well, I should watch. And that was it. So I was 8. I was not even 9 yet.
Right.
So
Interesting.
Had you
Yeah.
started developing a taste for pop music at the time yet?
the Beach Boys, "Surfing USA" was the first single I ever bought. When did that come out?
63, I think. Could have been 64, 63 or 64.
I'm thinking 63, but
63, probably.
that was my first single. So,
Okay. Because the Beatles were all over the radio leading up to Ed Sullivan.
of
So
course, of course.
yeah.
But it was Ed Sullivan that really put him on my radar.
Yeah. For you and millions of others.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
were you buying all their records up to that point before you saw Hard Day's Night?
I can't remember that, but I can tell you I bought all the singles,
Uh-huh.
all of them. I bought the weird singles, like the VJ singles, and what was Twist and Shout was on some really obscure.
It's on
Tolly.
Tolly.
Tolly record.
Thank
Tolly, yeah. Which
Tolly
I
was
think
a subsidiary of VJ.
it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are more expert than I am about that stuff, but all those weird singles. I had all of those, and of course, all the albums as well. Those are the only albums really that I owned in those days. Every Beatle album was an event.
Sure.
Sure.
And do
So,
they actually still exist today, those records, Joe?
Uh, Most of them.
Oh, good.
Most of them. I was also a bootleg kid. I used to go to Sounds in the East Village when there were, they had one of the famous bootlegs, but it was Live at Whiskey Flats and Come Back, and they were one called Let It Be Live. That was truly exciting. So I got into all that stuff as well. Some of them are not very good. There was, of course, the Beatles versus the Rolling Stones
Yeah.
was another bootleg with the Stones on one side and the Beatles on the other.
uh-huh.
And I still have a bunch of those.
That's great.
Yeah, some of those bootlegs were not the best sound quality, but that's what we had, and that's what many of us latched onto,
Yeah.
for anything that we never heard before by them. So, but throughout the 60s, they were your number one band, no matter
Oh,
what.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The Beatles were I mean, like for countless other people, the Beatles were the soundtrack of my young life. I mean, I was 9 and the Beatles they broke up when I was 15. I mean, that was like a death when when the Beatles broke up. Although I was at the concert for Bangladesh
Hmm.
Hmm.
and I was at the one-to-one concert.
Nice.
So I never saw the Beatles as a band, but I have seen all the Beatles, McCartney many times and Ringo a handful of times as well. And the concert for Bangladesh was really that changed my life. I would say the annual John Lennon tribute, as much as being inspired by John, was really inspired by the concert for Bangladesh and that seismic impact that it had on me. And it's still, in my view, it set the standard really for the modern rock benefit charity event. It's never been surpassed in terms of its excellence and all that. And wow, that had a profound impact on me.
So, how did you get from magazine editing to concert production?
Well, I was in theater even before Mad. I mean, I spent
Mhm.
my life in comedy,
Mhm.
and I joined a theater group back in the late '70s called Theater Within. And Theater Within was the experimental theater group down the block from the Dakota on 72nd Street between West End and Broadway. That space had good vibes. It was the former rehearsal studio of Billie Holiday
Mhm.
at 247 West 72nd Street. And the founder of that theater was a guy named Alec Rubin. And Alec, in addition to being a theater director, he was a therapist. He was a primal therapist. And he had studied with Arthur Janov, and there was a Primal Institute in New York. And Alec was kind of blurring the lines between theater and therapy. He had a therapy practice with primal therapy, and he had this primal theater group. When I walked into that space, there was a picture of John as a 5-year-old boy. It was the back cover of the Plastic Ono Band album. And John was kind of an inspiration and a hero to everyone in that group because of John's involvement in primal therapy and how that really changed the trajectory of Lennon's creative life. Obviously, Plastic Ono Band was what resulted from his work there in that extraordinary album for its depth and its emotional quality, its transparency, its anger, its tenderness, all of that.
Mhm.
So John was a neighbor, and I was a great Beatle fan, and I also looked up to John for his kind of fearlessness and revealing himself. And when John died, we we took it very, very badly.
Hmm.
Um,
Had
it
you
was
ever met him?
never met him,
Hmm.
Wow. He was so close.
never, never met John. Yoko, yes, but John, no. And the way the tribute was born, um, the following summer, this would be the summer of 1981, someone had written a play called Show Me the Way to Strawberry Fields. And we were going to do a reading of it at our theater space on 72nd Street. It's kind of a neighborhood tribute to John. Long story short, about a month before the event, the playwright got cold feet and pulled the play. He didn't think it was ready to be read. And rather than cancel the event, we said, let's do a John Lennon tribute. And we didn't plan it as an annual thing. It was a neighborhood event, just a gathering of poets and musicians and storytellers, and he invited people in the neighborhood. And it was very, very sad and very, very powerful. And we thought, boy, we should do this again. And we've never stopped. It's evolved and changed over many years. It's not what it was back then, but it started as this little event on 72nd Street on the Upper West Side, just a few blocks from where John lived and died.
Are Yoko and Sean, and even Julian maybe, aware of what you've been doing?
Uh, I Yoko and Sean definitely. I imagine Julian is as well. Um, yeah, we are sanctioned by the Lennon estate after all these years, and because of Yoko's great support, we've been able to do many of the things that we've done. For example, with the organization behind the John Lennon Real Love Project, which is a free songwriting program for families impacted by cancer, now in its 10th year. And we do a public school program. We've been to 30 schools now where students get to write their own lyrics to Real Love and record a version with John playing piano and John singing with them.
Wow.
We've done that in 30 schools, and none of that would be possible without the support of Yoko and Sean. So we are deeply grateful for their support. And needless to say, knowing that it's a sanctioned event also brings artists into our circle, like Graham Nash and Debbie Harry and Jackson Brown and many of the other greats who have performed in the tribute over the years, who I think it's very meaningful to them that Yoko and Sean bless this event and sanction it. So it's a feel good thing all the way around, and remarkably, it's been going on now 5 years longer than John actually lived.
That's amazing.
Were you involved also in the John Lennon education bus?
No, that the John Lennon Education Bus and the John Lennon Songwriting Contest are, I believe, are Yoko initiatives started by her and Theater Within, and I have not been involved in neither of those.
Okay. So how do you go about picking who you'd like to have perform each year?
That list is long. It's a long list. Well, we shoot for the stars, and we do the best we can. Some people are impossible to reach for us. Some people we've reached and have respectively declined for some reason or another. Some we know are interested and we've been courting for years, but the timing hasn't worked out yet. Graham Nash would be an example of that. When Graham first played the tribute in the 43rd, so he did it in 2023. He was scheduled to do it in 2020, and COVID put an end to that. And we ended up doing a virtual tribute that year. But the schedule didn't work out after that, and Graham had some understandable concerns about when he wanted to return to performing because of COVID. And 3 years later, the stars aligned, and he was our honoree that year. I should mention that we're in the 11th year of giving an award called the John Lennon Real Love Award, which was given to an artist for their lifetime achievement and their social impact or charitable impact. And we come up with nominees and we submit them to Yoko and Sean to get their approval. And once we have that, we can actually go out and offer the award to someone. And this year, the honoree is Judy Collins, who will be performing at the tribute for the third time.
Nice.
So, and Graham is coming back because Judy was there to honor Graham. So Graham is coming back to return the favor to honor Judy. So that's just a real thrill.
I just saw Graham at Capitol Theater in Portchester, and he's ageless. He's incredible. his voice is in perfect condition, and he just had an audience in the palm of his hand. It was one of the best shows I've seen in some time. About a month ago, 2 months ago. So that's pretty cool.
And he's really, as I see Graham, he's a unique figure in rock and roll history. Is there anyone else who comes out of the British invasion and Laurel Canyon both?
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
I don't know. There may be, but no one else I can think of
Yeah.
has that pedigree.
So, Joe, who's going to be playing this year's show?
I somewhat pinch myself when saying this, but Jimmy Webb will be joining us, which is astonishing to me. Suzanne Vega will be with us, who is someone we've been trying to uh, coax into the tribute for years, and finally the stars aligned for that to happen. Livingston Taylor will be with us. Yola, Valerie June, and
Cool.
some old friends who are with us pretty regularly. Of course, our music director Rich Pagano of Fab Faux fame. Rich returning, he's been with our musical director every year since 2009. Willie Nile, who we love, and Pete and Maura, the Kennedys, who are family to us and are just have become fan favorites. I don't think any artist has performed in a tribute more than Pete and Maura, and I'll be there too. So it'll be another good one.
Is Lucy Kaplansky on this year's bill?
Thanks for mentioning that. I forgot
Oh.
Lucy. Yes, Lucy is with us, and I think this is her third time and her first time
Yeah.
in 10 years.
Lucy's wonderful. She's a good friend, and she's incredibly talented. I haven't seen the Kennedys in ages. They're a lot of fun. If you're not familiar with Pete and Maura Kennedy folks, and Willie Nile's like one. Actually, no, Willie Nile is cool. If you look up the word "cool" online, the picture of Willie Nile is going to come up. You might think you'd find me, but you're going to find a picture of Willie Nile, who I just actually spoke to recently. But in any event, uh, do you do you recall when the year that the festival, the tribute show, rather, not the festival, the tribute show took its leap, where you thought, wow, we've now gone from being a little neighborhood thing that we weren't planning on being a yearly thing to, holy smoke, what are we doing here with so and so on the bill?
Yeah, there are a couple of key points. I'll try to make this concise. So, the founder of Theater Within, my teacher, was a guy named Alec Rubin. Alec was the director of the event and me the producer of the event for the first 20 years. Alec retired in 2000 and really was handed off to I became the creative director of it. And that was the year the tribute became a charity event.
Hmm.
We were always losing money anyway. So in 2000 it became a charity event. And it was under the radar. It was a small event. We weren't trying to make some big commercial statement. There were no big artists involved in it. And the 24th year was the first year there was a little blurb in the Daily News about it. And someone from Yoko's team saw it. It was Willa Shallot, the daughter of the movie critic Gene Shalit. And she was working with Yoko at the time. And she sent me an email and said, I work with Yoko. What is this? And I said, well, this is the annual John Lennon Tribute. And she said, what is that? And I said, well, it's in its 24th year and it's a benefit concert. And then we were just giving the money away to an organization in Harlem, the Harriet Tubman Center, that was providing educational programs for kids living in transitional housing. So I was scared. I got to tell you, I was scared. Someone from Yoko's office contacted me. I don't know what that was. And she wrote back saying, boy, we are so grateful to you. We are so touched. And the next day I got an email from Yoko. And she was inviting me to write an essay in a book she was working on called Memories of John Lennon. It was mostly a celebrity packed book, but Elton John has an essay in it, and Bonnie Raitt, and Yoko's coming to me. Apparently there was going to be some fan essays in it. So in a deadline, I had like a 3-day deadline. And so I wrote an essay. And I wrote about the one thing I knew no one else could write about. I wrote about the tribute. I wrote about the history of the tribute, and that essay ended up being in that book. And I got invited in to meet the Lennon family rep, and that really changed the course of the whole thing. When we got to the 25th year, that was the first year that WFUEV was officially evolved. I reached out to FUV. I think I'd known Darren from before that, and Janine Shadelman and the team over there. And that year was kind of the last year it became a workshop. But last year it was a workshop production. We were at a small venue at Lincoln Center. We had a couple of artists, Jen Chapin, daughter of Harry, was in the show, Cliff Eberhardt out of the
Yep.
Fast Folk. And my big get, although I think I had a good eye for talent back then, Anais Mitchell, who went on to do Hadestown,
Mm-hmm.
was in the tribute that year. And that was the turning point. As the trajectory of it, then it began to really become a concert. No more dance productions, no more storytelling. We kept the dance for a couple of years, I think, but the trajectory was kind of dramatic uh, because by 2010 we were at the Beacon with Jackson Brown and Patti Smith and Cyndi Lauper and Kev Mo and Taj Mahal and Amy Mann.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep, I remember
And,
those names.
and I'll tell you, it's kind of humbling because I thought at the time, wow, we've arrived. We're at the Beacon. Next year, let's go to Town Hall. It's half the size. Well, the next year we had a lot of trouble booking the show, and we ended up at La Poisson Rouge, which seats under 200 people. But we did it. We pulled it off, but we just had a lot of trouble booking it. And also, I wasn't as experienced as a producer back then. That was 2011. And then we went back to Symphony Space in 2012. That was the year of the hurricane that shut New York down.
Oh, right.
The
Okay.
the tribute. I forget all the names of the hurricanes, but the tribute,
Sandy.
Sandy, the tribute lost money that year. I mean, we've encountered a lot of hardships over the years
Hmm.
to keep this thing alive. And, also took time for us to grow into our not-for-profit mission and really establish that. It's been a labor of love for a long period of time to keep it going, to keep it vibrant, to attract the kind of talent that we get now, to make sure that all the charitable aspects of it are alive. And it couldn't have happened without just a merry band of hobbits working around it to make this thing what it is. And Music Without Borders, Steve Laurie, our co-producers since 2008. And of course, Yoko and Sean, their blessing has, I think, inspired the whole team. It's the only event of its kind in the world that they sanction in this way. And Bob Gruen's involved, and all the great photos we get from Bob. Downtown Music's involved, so we're able to use real love and bring that to the kids. We can post videos with the sanctioning of Sony and MPL. They need to bless the Beatle videos. I mean, we're in that we get to play in this sandbox is it's just a great gift to us, and we do our best to be worthy of it and make sure that it's aligned with a charity that's doing wonderful things. And we are doing wonderful things with the cancer community and the public schools, and that comes back to the inspiration from Harrison and the concert for Bangladesh on the one-to-one concert as well.
So, Joe, we've mentioned that this year's is at Town Hall, but for people who haven't followed it every year, we haven't said the date and the time, and the retired journalist inside me is saying, you need to do
Thank you.
that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This year's tribute is on Friday, December 12th at 8 p.m. at Town Hall in New York City, right in Times Square. Actually, tickets go on sale September 12th at noon at lennontribute.org. There's a pre-sale that starts September 9th. If you were a member of Friends of the Annual John Lennon Tribute, which you could also join at lennontribute.org, you get pre-sale access and you get access to tickets before the general public does on September 12th at noon. So those are the key coordinates there. And if our history at Town Hall is any indicator, it will sell out fast. So hopefully with Judy and Graham and Jimmy Webb and Suzanne and et cetera,
I'm sure it will.
hopefully it will sell out fast again, and we'll take in a good haul for Theater Within to keep our wonderful programs going and growing, including the John Lennon Real Love Project.
It's a great venue too.
Given this is, now, an annual thing, and you're dealing with fairly big names, and there's the charity aspect of it. Is this for you behind the scenes a year-round pursuit?
Oh yeah.
Does it
Oh yeah.
take? Yeah.
I'm working on the 47th annual John Lennon Tribute now. Okay. And so really, we have an ask out for 47, and we're working on 46. It's very, very challenging.
I bet.
Very challenging to get. You need that honoree first. Like last year's honoree was Kenny Loggins.
Hmm.
We got Kenny because he's retired.
Hmm.
That's why we got him, because he's usually be crazy touring.
Right.
And lining up Kenny Loggins, that touring schedule, extraordinarily difficult. So this is a tremendous challenge every single year to pull this together. Even this year, we didn't have a confirmed from Judy until May.
Mhm. Yeah, she's been performing lately.
She's remarkable.
Hmm?
She's remarkable. She's 86.
I know. How did you get Rich Pagano involved?
Well, my brother Bill, I'm going to say I'm a weekend warrior drummer. Used to do a lot of gigs on Staten Island. Used to play gigs with Frank Agnello
Hmm.
of the Fab Four. And my brother said to me, you should get the Fab Four involved in this thing. You do this thing every year. I'm working with a guy, Frank Agnello. Why don't you, I can introduce you. So I reached out to Frank, and Frank said, you got to talk to Rich. So in 2008, at the Ailey City Group Theater, in the 28th annual John Lennon Tribute, our big name that year was Roseanne Cash performing for the first time. Rich performed at the tribute. And after the show, he came to me backstage, and we have some footage of him at that, in which he's on camera saying, there are not many shows like this left in New York City. He really loved it. But he said to me, you know what? You need a house band. And because we didn't have a house band then, he said, I'll put one together for you. So the next year at Symphony Space, with Betty Levette and David Bromberg and Joan Osborne and Dan Byrne and Lucy Kaplansky, Rich put a house band together for us. And he was, that year, he became our music director, and we served good hummus backstage. And he has remained our music director ever since. And Rich's impact is huge. He is a seismic talent,
Yeah.
and he's got a great gift for working with people in a very gentle manner. Rich is really good at leaving his ego at the door. And he's transformed this event.
Do you know who the members of the house band be this year?
Too early to tell.
Too early. Yeah.
Too early to tell. Rich tends to curate that by kind of getting a feel for what artists are doing, what the songs are going to be, and then he tries to So he tries to, obviously, he's got great resources because of he's so highly regarded and respected in the New York scene.
Hmm.
He's played with so many people. He always puts a stellar band.
Hmm. Just mention songs. What goes into the selection of the songs that are performed by the artists? Do you get involved with the selection of songs? Of course, if you have a couple of artists coming into a show and everyone has the same uh, idea of doing the same song, that's got to be sorted out. Don't want to end up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more involved in curating than I used to be. I mean, it's an artist show. You can't make an artist do a song they don't want to do, but we'll suggest songs to artists. Sometimes they accept them, sometimes not. A fun moment many years ago when Jackson Browne was doing the tribute. He called me. I was flabbergasted that, hello, Jackson Browne. And he was calling me for suggestions on what songs he might do. I was blown away.
Yeah.
And I suggested, you got to hide your love away, and he did it. Um, so that's a fond memory there. But there are still artists who will call, like an artist, I won't mention a name, like an artist who'll call Blackbird. You know, John didn't write it. John didn't play on it. I know he's credited as a songwriter on it, but he really not right. So
Yeah.
we'll there's some gray area. Sometimes we'll suggest things. Like last year we did a Peter Tosh Lennon thing last year, which I'd wanted to do for a while because I always thought they were kind of soulmates in some way. Peter being born in October, great artist, known for very particular kind of messaging and song, died murdered, young, shot. I thought, boy, we should do a Peter Tosh thing. So that's been my idea for a while. So last year we did a medley of stand up, get up, combined with a reggae version of Cry Baby Cry. So that was a highlight. So yeah, and I'll choose, maybe how we're going to end. I'll get involved as needed, but it's artists first. I just sometimes need to steer people away from
Paul McCartney songs.
Paul McCartney songs, and there's some gray areas. Like Joan Osborne a number of years ago, she wanted to do Two of Us. Now that's kind of falls into a gray. But I thought, what, that's such a that the Lennon McCartney harmony on that is so memorable. So that was I was okay with that. But long and winding road,
No.
you know, let's keep it in the Lennon sphere.
And Maxwell Silverhammer is right out.
Don't stop it.
That's that's like, yeah. I don't think there was a song that the other Beatles hated more than that one. They're quotes from all of them about that in particular. But curating it, sculpting
Yeah.
it, choosing the order, things like that. Yeah, I'm involved on that level for sure.
But would you say more times than not they'll come in with the ability to do a number of songs that'll fit, and there's nothing that you need to get involved with. They're all good choices, and they go run with it.
I would say 95 or more percent of the time, yes. The thing that what I've learned about doing this over the years is that even a lot of great artists like, you think you know the lyrics to Imagine, you probably don't.
Yeah.
You may know most of them, but you probably don't know them. People need prompters or lyric sheets most.
Right.
Um, Even though they grew up with the song and heard it 175,000 times, if they're singing it,
Mm-hmm.
You could freeze.
It's like Ralph Cramden and on
good reference.
Hey, even John didn't remember his lyrics. I mean, his live recordings are full of mistakes and things. It's just the way it was. So
Yeah,
I mean, what was it? He blew the words on "Come Together" at the one-to-one concert. At least one of the performances. Do you remember which one you were at for Bangladesh and one-to-one? There was a matinee and there was an evening.
Evening for both.
Both. Okay.
You're very lucky. There
Yeah.
aren't too many people who could say they've seen all four of them in concert.
Yeah.
And actually, my wife is one of the few people I know of at all who not only saw all four of them individually, but as a band.
Oh
So
wow.
people are very rare.
That is extremely rare. And I saw Wings in the Nassau Coliseum, so I got to saw that incarnation of McCartney, and I saw Ringo's first All-Star Band in incarnation, and several others, but the first one at Jones Beach.
Yep. I
Yep.
was there. That
Without,
was what basically the band, and it seemed with the band and the E Street Band playing with
right,
Ringo.
right. So where the future of this goes in terms of artists involved and things like that. Who knows? I know who I'd like to have in this show. I'd like to honor Stevie Wonder. Can we get him? Um, and others, but Stevie comes to mind. If I had a wish list of who I'd want to put first on it for his music and social impact, it's hard to top Stevie. He'd be high on the list.
I'm right there with you.
You know. Um,
Got a couple more questions. The format of the tribute show, does each artist do just two or three songs? Is it a short set, or do they do something lengthier? How does that work?
Usually two songs each.
Okay.
Although the honoree Judy will do more than that.
Okay.
So the honoree may do 4 songs or 5 songs. We try to feature the honoree more. Sometimes we bring the honoree back. Like when we had Graham did a set of Beatles songs and brought out Judy and Art Garfunkel as a surprise guest for Imagine. That's on our YouTube channel. That's really a very touching and beautiful moment. Then at the end of the show, Graham came back to do Teach Your Children and sang a verse with us for Happy Christmas, War is Over
Mm.
the in the finale. So most artists are doing 2 songs each. The honoree, we squeeze as much juice out of the honoree as we possibly can because we know that Judy's going to have a lot of fans there.
Sure.
Right.
And she's recorded some Beatles covers, including "In My Life," which is a good thing for this purpose.
Yeah, she did an album called The Songs of Lennon and McCartney.
Mm.
Right. Not that long ago.
Very heavy on McCartney though, and in that album, if you look at the track list, I think the ratio of Paul to John songs is 3 or 4 to 1. Not surprising
Mhm.
for for me.
So the concerts, how long do they last?
We push curfew. We push it. It's once a year, so we shoot for 2 hours and 59 minutes, not to hit that 11 hour. There is an intermission which we need for fundraising. It's a 15-minute break, and I people have to deal with me. I open with it with a comedy set, which is short, but it's 2 hour 50 minute full evening.
Nice.
Have you ever considered, well, has every concert been filmed?
Not every, but we've got most of the recent ones filmed. We did an album many years ago.
Oh,
We
Oh
did
wow.
we did an album for the 30th. We did a CD, but it's a whole different realm doing an album. You've got to, in terms of just not only the mixing, but the permissions needed and
Yeah.
what it costs to do it and who buys albums anymore. It's difficult monetizing, this uh, this stuff. So we've kind of leaned away from that, and we release highlights on the YouTube channel. There are many performances on the YouTube channel. In fact, we just released Judy doing Norwegian wood from the time she was last with us last week. So, but we've never, since then, we haven't done an album because frankly, just the economics of that
Yeah,
just didn't turn out to be great for us.
it's a lot of work
Is it-
too, like you say, with the legal stuff and clearances, and it's different artists doing someone else's songs, and um,
We should give the address of the YouTube channel as well. Is it just
is it all LennonTribute.org?
It's LennonTribute.org. I think the channel is called Lennon Trib.
And like I said at the top of the show, it's in my mind a New York City tradition that kind of sets the stage for the holiday season. It always obviously always happens in early December, and it's something very special going on. And Town Hall is a great venue, as I pointed out several times, on West 43rd Street. Correct?
That is correct. And a couple of people have asked over the years, why are we doing this event around the anniversary of John's death? And it's not so much that that's the plan, but Darren just spoke to it. What's happened is it's kind of turned into a holiday event.
Hmm.
It's turned into that, and we'd considered, believe me, if Judy was available in November and not December, it would have been in November. I mean, there's that aspect of it too. When is talent available?
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of years ago, we actually did it on John's birthday. We did it on October 9th, but we shoot for that somewhere between October 9th and December 8th.
Right.
Which are obviously those days that are etched in any Lennon fan's heart.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna mention because you brought up the CD if you would have ever planned a DVD, but it kind of answered the question just from the CD alone. So
The rights, Ken, are just all of that work for what payoff, all the rights you have to go through with artists and clearances and then producing the thing. And we are not for profit. And, I don't see that in the near future anyway.
okay. So did you want to get into the debate over the one-to-one box set?
Ah,
Because you
You know what? It's your show. If you want to talk about it, I'm glad to weigh in. If you
Since
want to,
you wrote to us about it and have written an article about it, the one thing I should say is that I think we can't actually say the title because YouTube will ban the video.
part
So,
of my point, exactly.
well,
and that would defeat the purpose of doing all the promotion for your show, which would be out the window then.
hmm,
I get that logic, your logic, and
wait,
I got that like that.
we have to tell the listeners what
Yeah, they
the
don't know what
logic
we're
is.
talking about. Go ahead,
So
Allan. Yeah.
Joe wrote to at least a couple of us and said basically that if we're not willing to say the name of the song, we can't criticize Sean or Universal for not putting it on the box set. And my argument was basically that, John wrote and recorded the song and he explained the song at the time. And basically, I think everyone understood it at the time, even though it was always a bit of a problem. Elliot Mintz played the album on his radio show in California and immediately got fired. Um, so, but it has been out, last out in I think 2010 in the signature box and all that, and we didn't write the song and we didn't justify the song and make the argument. So us saying it is a little different than John saying it. John has, I feel, more of a right to, make the case that he's made, in the song as well. And as you put at the end of your note to me, think about it, do something about it, which is from that song. I mean, I think it's a very powerful song and an important song. And so basically, this was the debate we were having with Joe. And so we thought we would bring a little bit of that into the show as well and hear what Joe has to say.
Well, a couple of things. First, I was there when John sang it. Okay, he was in the one-to-one
Right.
Mhm.
concert. I saw John perform that live. Stevie Wonder and Roberta Flack were on the bill with John.
Mhm.
Stevie sang Give Peace a Chance with John. Of course, there is no way that Stevie Wonder and Roberta Flack would have been on the bill with John and Yoko if they thought for a second that they were marginalizing a suffering community. They did not feel that way.
Right.
Mm.
This is a very important song in Lennon's trajectory from a misogynist to a feminist to a house husband. It's a pivotal song in John's growth as an artist and a man. It's an important song. It's been performed at the tribute by Joan Osborne and Patti Smith and Nicole Atkins. So I just named the three people who came up.
Really? Oh,
Yes, so it's been performed there. And um, so all that. And I lament, as a guy who's on a program about free speech around the country for many years, I lament that we've come to this stage in the culture where it's forbidden to use a word even when referring to it. That wasn't true 15 minutes ago. Okay. But that is where I don't think that's good, but that's where the culture has arrived. And my point to you guys, and to be fair to you, it's not just about you. Let's take it to the whole Beatle podcast community. I think the last time I checked, there were 917 Beatles podcasts out there.
And
Okay,
still
actually,
growing.
there's really just one or two, and it is one of them.
and
Really, no, I'm
Main
kidding.
ones.
I'm kidding.
I've seen a couple. You know, the guys who review the box sets, they open them up and they take pictures of themselves and they give your take. Everyone's lamenting this. Some people are blaming Sean. Some people are blaming lawyers. Some people are blaming UMG, the Universal Music Group that puts it out. Some people are making analogies between other songs, but no one's willing to say the word themselves. Why not? Because everyone's got a brand to protect. No one wants to be kicked off YouTube. They're basically making the same call as a content provider that UMG is making. UMG doesn't want to touch this. They just don't want to touch it. They don't want the problem. It is a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. There's going to be criticism either way. I don't know Sean. My guess is Sean. This is an important song to Sean, and he'd want it out if it could be out. But it's just not. I guess what I'm suggesting is empathy for all involved here. Nobody wants this headache. You don't want it
Mm.
for understandable reasons. UMG doesn't want it, and probably those advising Sean are saying, you don't. It's there for people who want it, but it's not worth it now because it's just going to cause problems that none of us want to deal with. And I have empathy for that point of view, even as I lament it. So my message is don't be too tough on those for this call. It's regrettable but understandable in the world that we live in now. It's not analogous to Run for Your Life. It's not analogous to John Sinclair with the line about shooting gooks in Vietnam. It's not directly analogous to that because the culture now is in a very particular place with that very particular word. And if you want to fight it, if you want to plant your flag and take that fight, you could do that, but the price of that is saying the word and taking the heat.
Yet
Right.
we can't do it if YouTube won't allow us to do it.
Right.
Now, if I were working at Universal and running Universal, I would definitely have included it on the set. But I think actually we're closer than you may think because I think really all we're doing is we're lamenting it too. You
And I
know,
think for
I
this,
don't think we're unempathetic. I think we understand, what Sean's facing, and maybe a little less empathetic to Universal. But I don't know. I just feel that like this was an important era for John, and that was an important song for John, and we've got 9 albums full of stuff, and that one thing missing. Well, and one performance of Sisters Oh Sisters.
Right.
It turns out they only did it at the afternoon show, I think. They only did it on one of the 2 shows. So a live Sisters Oh Sisters is missing, but we've got like 5 other performances in the
Right.
box. But that is, I don't know. I would have argued for it if I worked for Universal, and that's the best I can do. Can't argue for it here if YouTube's going to ban it because the
right.
argument won't get out.
And I think we all understood that, and would be shocked if this wasn't the case, that Sean's hands were tied. It is the label and the lawyers, Universal and the lawyers, probably. I think in my personal case, I was more puzzled by it being an issue now, when it wasn't an issue just a few years back when the song was reissued and reissued before that, all within recent years. It The title of it, right smack on the front cover of the CD reissue that came out right at the turn of the century.
Pre George Floyd.
And I think, at least speaking for me alone, I think my problem is more with the fact that we have to make this decision and make this call. And I personally hate the feeling of having to clam up because I feel bad about, and I don't want this show to be penalized. And it's like you're fighting the fight, and it's like there's no way to win the fight. Do you fight it anyway, or do you just say it should be on there, but it isn't?
Does the Beatles channels play that song?
I did
haven't
ask
heard
Tom
it.
Frangione about that, and he said yes, but not that often. They will play it.
Universal does point out that it is still available on streaming services in the previous releases. So, and I don't know if the previous releases are still in print, if you can still get the discs from the signature box, or Yoko's 2005 remix of the album. But it's out there. I suppose you could make your own complete.
No, let me share a related anecdote that you may find interesting. So earlier this year, we did a Stevie Wonder 70th birthday celebration in May at City Winery. And one of the songs that we were doing was Living for the City.
Hmm.
Now, any big Stevie Wonder fan knows that there's that famous vignette in the middle of Living for the City in which the kid, hey, New York City, just like I pictured. Hey, bus driver, I'm getting on that bus. And he gets caught up in a drug deal and he gets, sentenced to 10 years. And at the end of the vignette, a prison guard who's obviously racist throws the kid in the prison and says, get in that cell, and uses the forbidden word. Now, we were recreating that vignette in this show. Rich Pagano was the musical director. Rich comes to me and says, look, we're creating it. He says to me, why don't you play the guard? You play the cop, you say the word. Everyone knows you're a great guy. And it'll be acceptable coming from you. I say, whoa, Nelly, this is the artist's call. Let's see what the artist wants to do. See how the artist wants to present this. This is not. So the artist singing the song was Ryan Shaw, who played Stevie on Broadway in the Motown musical. So it's not like there's nobody here. Ryan wants to do the song. He wants to do it as Stevie did it. He wants to do it. I'm staying with the artist. I'm going to defend the artist's right to do it. I just want the house band members to know this is coming. We got to rehearse it. I'm not going to say the word in rehearsal. I want to make sure everyone's got my back. I don't want to surprise people with this. I want to make sure everyone is clean and clear, know that this is coming. We're going to do it. By the way, it was an interracial house band. Black guys, white guys. We were set to do it. Then the background vocalists came in, all women. They wanted nothing to do with it. They did not want to be on stage when that word was being said. They came to me and they said, man, you're the head of this organization. Do you really want to be the guy on stage doing this? If this is so important to Ryan Shaw, let Ryan do all the characters. It's theater. Let him do it. They wanted nothing to do with it. One of them was deeply, deeply upset. So I got a situation on my hands here. I'm the producer. I'm staying with the artist. Well, I go to Ryan and say, Ryan, here's what's happening. The gals aren't for this. They don't want it. And he said, Joe, just forget it. It's not, just drop it. And we did the vignette without that word. Now that word is kind of important there because it signals that the guard is a racist. Mm-hmm. A guard who just says get in the cell is arguably just doing his job. Mm-hmm. A guard who says get in the cell and uses a slur is clearly a racist. Mm-hmm. But the decision was made to drop it. So that was it. And it was fine. No one complained that you dropped it. I'm just sharing this because there is great sensitivity around this word, even when recreating something, a great work of art in which that word was used. It's a tough one. It's just really, really tough.
I wish there was an outtake where he sang something else and they could put that out. But then the whole point of the song is tied up in the word. So
it sounds to me like, in essence, you really were on the same page as we were on our show a few weeks back. For the folks who don't know, that was when we had Chip Manninger on. And we were talking about the box set upon its announcement that it was coming out. And we will go, maybe it was within a week, I think, of the announcement of the release, which I think is October 10th now.
Yep.
But so it does actually sound to me that we pretty much are on the same page.
Probably. It sounds like we are too. I just would have, I'm going to try to be a little bit nicer and, I wouldn't call people cowards or the pressure is intense.
Yeah.
Who knows what the ramifications would be to whoever made this decision at UMG to approve this. True. People care about their jobs and, there's a tremendous social pressure around this. Not easy. We can't even necessarily know the pressures that people might feel. They might agree with us, but feeling like it's too much. I don't want this fight.
One of my arguments, and we discussed this here on our show, was if this song is so bad because of that word, why is it still out there on YouTube if you want to listen to the studio version or you want to listen to the one-to-one version? Why not erase it entirely? Why is it okay there, but not on this release? I know that you said, you can't compare it to Run for Your Life or John Sinclair, but my point is, what's going to follow if we accept this?
Look,
how much more censorship are we going to have to deal with?
The song was widely banned when John put it out. It wasn't like it wasn't controversial then. It was banned then too. And what was different in the culture then, it was the head of the Black Congressional Caucus, Ron Dellums, who put out a statement in support of John. And it was Dick Gregory who came to John's defense and posed with him and Yoko on the cover of Jet. John actually had support of prominent figures in the Black community then. And there was a movement, and I remember seeing Dick Gregory at Delphi University, where I went to school, where he was recontextualizing the dreaded N-word to make it not apply to just Black people, but to anyone in the culture who is marginalized or second class. And Gregory's point that that word applies to a lot more people than just African Americans. And I was sympathetic to that view. But that view over time is not the dominant view. That hasn't, Dick Gregory was on the losing side, of that argument. I think it's fair to say. And we're all lamenting that. But that is where we are now. What's going to undo that? I don't know. Look, there's a George Carlin special. I don't know if it's on HBO, in which he uses the N word quite a bit through it, saying that he's talking about it in relation to Eddie Murphy. And he's saying, we don't mind when Eddie Murphy uses it. Why? Because, and then George uses the word there. This was in the late 70s or early 80s. The culture has turned from that. And that's not a good turn in my view. To me, you should all be held responsible for how you use words and the words you use. And there's certainly should be nothing that's considered racist or out of bounds by using a word when referring to it or when quoting someone. So and so said such and such. And by the way, the other thing I wanted to mention here, since we're on this topic, and a lot of people don't know this, it's widely believed that Yoko coined the phrase. She didn't. It's from a book. It's by Their Eyes Were Watching God, a novel from 1937 by Nora Zeal Hurston, a Black woman. Now, I don't know if Yoko knew that or not. There could be a coincidence there, but John frequently said it was Yoko who said it. Well, she didn't say it first. And a lot of people don't know that either. The original context of it came, as far as my research shows, from a Black woman.
Interesting.
You know, I was saying something at the Fest for Beatle fans about this song, questioning why is it okay for Bob Dylan to use that word in his song about Hurricane Carter. It's in there.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hurricane Carter.
I hear it on the radio still.
Yep.
Well, that's interesting. Is that on the radio? I wonder.
I wonder. You don't hear Bob Dylan on the radio too much anymore, but yeah, it was a key track off the Desire album.
But I don't know if Woodstock Radio would play that track now without bleeping the word. And again, context is everything. And to the people, he was just a crazy.
Right.
Dylan is putting it in context there. You know, the way John does with, if they'd been a soldier man shooting, I don't want to use the slur again. Right. He's putting it in kind of from their point of view.
Right.
We've kind of lost this nuance in the culture now, in this knee-jerk culture that we live. Oh, you said it, and again, that was kind of my training as a humorist, and it's a Carlin-esque argument, which is that there are no bad words. It's all about context and how they're used and their bad intentions, but there are no inherently bad words. Now, some would argue that word in particular has an ugly history and it's been used to demonize and marginalize people, and that's true, but not everyone who's using the word is using it in that context or in that way. So,
Richard Pryor used it in 3 album titles.
I understand that, and in comedy bits as well. Although Richard had a complicated relationship with that word, near the end of his life, he said he regretted ever using it. But he used it when it served him. And Richard Pryor was an important force in my life. I learned about racism from Richard Pryor. So it's a stinky stew, guys. It's a really stinky stew, and no easy answers to this. I can only tell you that Joan Osborne performed that song in 2022, not that long ago.
Right.
And said a few words before she did it. And um, it took it takes a certain nerve
Yeah.
to get up on stage and sing that song, especially now, even though, my word, what a harrowing, chilling, pointed, brilliant song. All the anguish and the pain in that song. It is, to me, it's one of John's greatest.
Hmm.
Really, really one of his greatest.
I'll tell you one thing. I've never disclosed this before, but I've been doing my radio show on the Beatles since 1982. And the only song I was ever told never to play was that song. I've gotten away with Working Class Hero,
Yeah.
not that one. They'd always tell me, if you have to question it, you probably shouldn't play it. But that's the only song that they've told me not to play. So we're going back to the 80s here and on up. And I've never put that in my show.
Yeah.
Should call it almost every little thing.
Well, tell me, is it playable if it's bleeped?
Yeah, but he says it so much, it's
Yeah.
away from it, you know?
It's like watching Goodfellas without on regular TV. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And people who don't know the song just hear the title
Yeah.
are many of them are horrified
Hmm.
because it sounds like some declarative statement, which it in fact is, but it's not understood by
Hmm.
just that title what John is really talking about there. And I got to tell you, with the overturning of Roe v. Wade,
Hmm.
song is kind of more resonant now than ever in terms of what it speaks to about the perpetual second class citizenry of women.
Hmm. More timely now than ever.
Yep. Well, Joe, thank you. Thanks for the conversation, and thanks for doing the show every year for 45 years now. And put a little pressure on you. Let's keep it going for another 45 years. I don't know what kind of shape we'll be in, but um, let me pass on the info because I have it right here. And I've been trying to keep my cell phone from closing out on me here for the past half hour. 45th annual John Lennon Tribute Town Hall on West 43rd Street, December 12th, 8 o'clock show, featuring well, Judy Collins is going to let me let you say that. I want to get the no, it's right here. Judy Collins is going to be receiving the and it went away. Tell us who Judy Collins is going to be receiving. I got the website and I got the
Judy, you got the scroll. So Judy Collins will be receiving the 2025 John Lennon Real Love Award, and she'll be joined by Graham Nash and Jimmy Webb, Suzanne Vega, Yola Livingston Taylor, Valerie June, Lucy Kaplansky, Willie Nile, the Kennedys, and our music director, Rich Pagano. And I'll be there too. Hopefully that won't keep anyone away.
all right. Well, thank you,
Did you
Joe.
ever read Jimmy
Oh,
Webb's book when it came out?
I have not.
Oh, okay. I interviewed him when it came out, and it was very Beatles slanted. And he did a lot to help John out when he was in trouble in LA.
I'd like to read that.
Yeah.
I'd like to read that.
I wish he'd tell the story live because I think people would be fascinated by that.
What I just, I think of Jimmy as like one of the just like one of the great songwriters of
Yeah.
his generation, and
Yeah.
that he's going to be doing Lennon is kind of just so cool.
Yep.
It's just, I'm pretty excited about that, and that's a good place to end. Just gratitude for you guys for having me on and getting in the mud with me with this discussion we just had and promoting the tribute a bit, and just the gratitude I feel for John. It's amazing. I just for It's hard for me to fathom how one person's death has impacted my life, the degree to which John's has, and it's brought so many people into my life, over this bond that we share for John and his music, and and really the highest values, the things that John stood for, his outspokenness for things that really matter, timeless songs, timeless message.
Mhm.
And, and that's why this is endured for so many years.
Yeah. Okay, Joe, thank you so much for being with us. We can see how much love and passion you put into your work here, and I'm going to do everything I can to catch the show, coming up. And we can't thank you enough for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
And that was just fantastic. Thank you, Joe, for joining us here. We'll have information in the description box if you want to go to this special Lennon Tribute show. And what a fantastic guest to have. Thank you, Joe. So why don't
Absolutely.
we go around the horn and find out what each of us is doing? Darren,
Not
how,
much of anything, to be honest with you. You could come and find me on Facebook. You want to send me a message, like my two Facebook pages, and be sure to catch Talk More Talk with Ken and Kiddo too. So all quiet on the Western Front right now.
okay. There's plenty of Darren to go around between
Oh
both.
my goodness, there is just too much actually.
Allan,
Okay, you can find me on Facebook under either Allan Kozinn or Allan Kozinn Remixed. You can find all of us on Twitter at Things We Said Fab or on BlueSky at Things We Said Today. And separately on both of those too. And we have a group Facebook page, which is Things We Said Today Video Podcast. Shows are always posted there, whatever other information. And you can email all of us at Things We Said Today Radio Show at gmail.com.
please do. All right. As for me, you can always email me directly at everylittlething@att.net. On my own YouTube channel called Ken Michaels Radio, my two most recent videos, I just had one with both Tom Frangione. It's funny saying Frangione now, but that's what Paul McCartney called him. So that's what we're going by. Forget Frangione, it's Frangione. And Al Sussman, who of course was a co-host on this show for many years and a frequent guest. Tom and Al used to do shows with me on the radio on WDHA during my 10-year stay there in New Jersey. And so we reunited to talk about both the Power to the People and Anthologies releases. And I thought I'd do a show because of all the backlash that's out there concerning both those releases. And everywhere I look, it seems like on YouTube, it's everything that's wrong with the anthologies and the Lennon release. Even on this show, we had Chip Mattinger on and Allan and Darren, and you didn't seem to be too thrilled about the releases. So I thought, why not hear from Tom and Al? And Tom, of course, does a lot of shows on the Beatles channel on Sirius XM. And Al still pops up every now and then on our shows, and he always writes for Beatle Fan. Tom writes for Beatle Fan. So we had both of them on together to talk about those two releases with them weighing in on how they feel. So you get a little bit of a difference there, the good and the bad about both
Mhm.
releases. And we got a great reaction to that show, over 1,000 views so far. Thanks to everyone for watching that. And I also had Luca Perassi on, and Luca's a busy guy with all the books that he's been
Yeah.
writing Beatle-wise. One recently on the Press to Play album. I did an interview with him on that. We just interviewed him on Talk More Talk about Press to Play and his book. But the second to most recent book that Luca has written is on Ringo and his solo career. He put out a book called I Play the Piano If It's in C. And when I interviewed him, I couldn't get to everything I wanted to in the book. I went through his Old Wave album, Ringo's Old Wave. So I had to pick up on that and talk about Time Takes Time. We also discussed the Chips Moman sessions that were aborted by Ringo. He prevented that from going out. Unreleased Ringo and some one-off songs that appeared on compilations and whatnot. So those two are my most recent shows on Ken Michaels Radio. Like I said, Talk More Talk, the most recent show was with Luca talking about Press to Play. The book, by the way, on Press to Play is just phenomenal. You find out all the information of where Paul's head was at the time. You hear quotes from various musicians, not just Eric Stewart and Hugh Padgham, but Jerry Murata's in there, Carlos Alomar, and information about every single song is in there. So I highly recommend that and his book on Ringo. And on my website, kenmichaelsradio.com, don't forget that I always have Beatles trivia on there on the Beatles trivia and games page. Most recently, I added Look Up, Ringo's most recent album, his country album, as a prize. So every 2 weeks, we give away one of 10 great prizes, and you could be a winner just by figuring out the answer to our trivia question or Beatle game at kenmichaelsradio.com. And as for my radio show called Every Little Thing, I have a brand new show that's out, which has, I think it's becoming my favorite thing to do because I always have thematic sets, and I have another acoustic Beatles set in there, Beatles and solo. I love listening to stripped down Beatles. And so there's a new set in my latest show, as well as a Beatles Kissin' set. And so if you want to listen to Every Little Thing, the best way to do that is by going to WFDU's website, WFDU.FM, go to their archival page, I should say, and type in Every Little Thing. There's 4 shows there of what they aired the last 2 weeks. So you can listen to any of those shows, and each show is up there for 2 weeks. So you got plenty of time to listen. Lots of good stuff in those shows. Beatles, solo, hits, deep cuts, rarities. It's all mixed in there with all these thematic sets that I throw in. So again, that's at WFDU.FM. All right. So thanks to all you guys for watching. Thanks again to Joe Raiola for joining us here and telling us about his 45th
annual John Lennon Tribute.
Yep. And for Allan Kozinn and Darren DeVivo, I'm Ken Michaels, and we will see you all next time.